Hello again. In video 2, we're going to discuss why there's a need for the EZ Savings4U program. Again, my name's Ed McClements, and I run an insurance agency called McClements Insurance Services. It was about a year ago that one of my largest clients came to me and said, "Ed, what do you know about this new CalSavers program?" At the time, I had to admit, I had not even heard the term. But I did a little research, went online, checked out what was going on the California Treasurer's website, and at that time, the brand new website for CalSavers, and educated myself. In fact, I have a lot of my clients because I'm fairly well known in the industry for being able to take on confusing new regulations and help boil them down to the basics. And that's what my client was asking me to do. When we took a look at it, one of the things that came up was, should we just create a 401k plan and control it ourselves rather than participating in the CalSavers program? And based on the first 10 years or so of my career, where I did a lot of work with 401ks, I knew that going in that direction could pose some significant problems, at least for this client and a lot of my clients. So I said, no, let me take a little deeper look into this and see if there's any easier options. One of the things that is mentioned in the CalSavers material is that employers could set up a payroll deduction IRA program, a PDIRA. This is something that is well understood under the IRS and Department of Labor rules. We'll show you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But under the CalSavers information, they added an extra term with automatic enrollment. That automatic enrollment put an extra twist on the CalSavers program, at least the alternatives that an employer would need to explore to have a payroll deduction IRA work as a substitute for CalSavers. But looking into that a little bit deeper, it became clear to me that that might be a better solution for my clients. And since then, again, a year ago when we started doing the research, I've actually given presentations to about 6 live audiences up and down the state of California and 1 online webinar so far. I've worked with organizations and done presentations for the Agricultural Personnel Management Association, the California Farm Labor Contractors Association, and also the Grower Shippers Association in Salinas, California. And also, over the last 4 months, we've been working extensively with my new team, the attorney and the plan document specialist, double checking my research to make sure we were on the right track and that collectively we thought we could bring a better solution to the marketplace. But in order to understand how that works, let's talk a little bit more about CalSavers. CalSavers, I think, has got great intentions and for many employers might be a very good fit, but not necessarily for all employers. There are what I call 7 heartburn issues that employers need to consider. Of those 7, the deadline is something that gets everybody's attention. If you have 100 or more employees, the original deadline was either participate in CalSavers by June 30th or risk penalties. That has been pushed back now to September 30th. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Also, there, as I mentioned, penalties for non-compliance. That catches employers' attention. There's a very broad definition of who is eligible for the program to the employer. In other words, if you've got somebody who's 18 years or older and is earning a paycheck with you, they're probably eligible for CalSavers. There's also a feature of auto-enrollment. Auto-enrollment implies that the employee has to actively opt out rather than opting in. So if the employee does nothing, the default status is the employee is assumed to want to participate in the CalSavers program. There's also an issue that gets into the legal weeds a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about this in successive videos after this one. But the long and the short of it is it's kind of a double-edged sword. What CalSavers is promising employers is minimal involvement in this program. And that's got a plus side, but it's also got a minus side. The plus side is obviously that employees do not have to make any contributions to the CalSavers program, and there's no liability to the employer for the CalSavers program. But the downside of that is the employer must keep a very hands-off relationship. They cannot advise or encourage or discourage employees from participating in CalSavers. And when it gets right down to it, they cannot even accept a waiver form for CalSavers. And CalSavers must be the active party doing all onboarding and communication about how the program works. So that makes things a little difficult. There's also, under the way CalSavers is set up, what's called Know Your Customer rules. Like any bank account, when CalSavers sets up an IRA for an employee, as a precursor, they must, under federal law, know enough about that individual to assure that they're eligible for participating in the financial system. In other words, there's going to be a mini background check on this employee. Do they have a valid Social Security number or tax ID number? Is their date of birth and name consistent with the Social Security number information? If any of your employees fails that background check, they have to be excluded from participating in CalSavers. And on an ongoing basis, the way CalSavers works is, again, because the communication will be going back and forth between the employee and CalSavers, CalSavers will be making information available on a website that employers must check before they run every single payroll to double check whether or not employees have made any changes since the last payroll. So because of these heartburn issues, at least for my clients, it became clear that we needed to further explore the options that might be out there. So we're going to take you through the CalSavers website a little bit to give you a little bit more meat on the bones on this issue. In the CalSavers website, there's a lot of great information. We'll be going into CalSavers in much more detail in a later video, but I need to hit a couple of high points for you for this video. Let's take a look at the deadline for employer contributions. That's under Program Details. As you can see, the employer has, if you have 100 or more employees, up to September 30th to comply with the program. Also, under Frequently Asked Questions, under Employer Registration, are there penalties for non-compliance? Yes, per the Unemployment Code section 1088.9, subsection B. As you can see, if an employer fails to participate, there's a $250 penalty per employee, and if that is not complied with within 90 days after notice of that penalty, the penalty can be increased to $500 per eligible employee. In terms of the broad worker eligibility, again under the Frequently Asked Questions, eligibility, are all employees eligible for the program? Any employee that is at least 18 years of age and is subject to a W-2 from that employer is eligible for the program. There are no abilities with the CalSavers program to have a waiting period for your employees, and you can't go up to age 21. This isn't an employer-based program. This is CalSavers program, and anybody who works for you who is a W-2 employee and is at least 18 years of age is eligible to participate in the program. In terms of the auto-enrollment feature, under Resources, Employee Information Packet, the employee gets 30 days to decide, but there is automatic enrollment. So if the employee does nothing, the employer is instructed to take 5% of their gross pay and put it into the program for them. In terms of what I call the dual-edged sword of ERISA exemption, again under the employer's program details, you can find a section down here, activities that employers are not responsible for. CalSavers does not include any employer fees or employer match for contributions. You are also not responsible for enrolling employees, disseminating information, or answering questions about the program, managing any investment options, including the choice of investment funds, etc. You're not in charge of processing any distributions. You're not to answer any questions about investment options. Employers should not give tax or investment advice. In managing the employee changes or account maintenance, which include but are not limited to the contract information and beneficiary information, are not to be handled by the employer. They're to be handled by CalSavers. All of these things are requirements so that the employer stays out of harm's way when it comes to an employer being considered to have offered a retirement program that qualifies under federal law, ERISA. That does also preclude the employer from accepting the opt-out waiver form. So that is a critical part of how and why the program can be a little difficult for an employer to handle. Before we leave the CalSavers website, I'd like to show you a couple of more details. On the bottom of their page, they have a disclaimer. And right in the disclaimer, they explain that their program is an automatic enrollment program for payroll deduction IRAs. They also go on to explain that employers are not liable for the decisions employees make in their program. In other words, the employers are protected from ERISA responsibilities as fiduciaries to a retirement program. The CalSavers program is not considered an employer-sponsored retirement plan. One last detail that we want to cover before leaving the CalSavers webpage, at least for this video, is to describe what an employer must have in order to be eligible to be excluded from CalSavers. To get to that information, let's take a look at frequently asked questions under employer eligibility rules, under this section where if we already have a retirement plan. In this section, they list the type of programs that if the employer already has any of these, they are not required to participate in CalSavers. In fact, they're ineligible to participate in the CalSavers program, at least for the what they call automatic enrollment portion of CalSavers. These programs include qualified pension plans, 401k plans, 403A plans, 403B plans, simplified employee pension plans, SEP plans, and simple plans called savings incentive match plans for employees, and then also payroll deduction IRAs with automatic enrollment. As we saw a minute ago, that is the type of program that technically CalSavers is. It is not an employer-sponsored plan, but it is a payroll deduction IRA with automatic enrollment. Some of these programs are not really to be considered by an employer, because if you have over 100 employees, you're not eligible for the simple program. And under the SEP program, the Simplified Employee Pension, that does require employer contributions of a significant amount of employee compensation in order to have that plan. So the only program that you can participate in is potentially a traditional 401k plan or a payroll deduction IRA with automatic enrollment, and leave the employer in a position of not having to make contributions on behalf of their employees. So as you can see, the CalSavers program places a limited role on the employer. This is very critical for CalSavers' point of view that these programs are not employer-sponsored retirement plans. They do not subject the employer to ERISA requirements under federal law. But employers are required to communicate with CalSavers about any new hires so that those new hires can communicate with CalSavers about whether or not they do want to participate or not want to participate in the program. There's certainly a role for the employer in terms of making the auto-enrollment deductions from employees' paychecks and obviously forwarding those contributions to CalSavers so that they can be contributed into each employee's appropriate account. And it's also a requirement for employers to check with CalSavers each and every payroll period, because there's no other way of knowing whether or not an employee has made a change in any of his contribution amounts without going to the CalSavers website and double checking, in essence, every employee who's a participant in the CalSavers program. Now, there's certainly a lot of California workers in various parts of the economy, whether it's agriculture or healthcare or construction or manufacturing or food processing, who have relatively low paid jobs and do not have access to retirement programs. This is why CalSavers was established, to help these employees get access to some type of program. The problem arises is that many of these programs, especially in agriculture, offer weekly payroll services to their employees. And because of the nature of the work, typically hours worked in that week have to be tallied, and because of the nature of agriculture or many other types of industries, those hours can vary tremendously. So the whole process of payroll is an extremely extensive burden to the company already. So layering in this need to communicate back and forth to CalSavers prior to processing each payroll can really add up to a very significant additional burden to the payroll department of a company. So what makes EZ Savings4U better than just going with CalSavers? Well, it gives the employer a path for creating a payroll deduction IRA program with automatic enrollment. That payroll deduction IRA program with automatic enrollment is the key that will allow the employer a much simpler process, as we will describe in later videos. This program will be putting the employer in control. The employer can accept the waiver forms from the employees. There's no intermediary between the employer and the employee with the approach that we're recommending with our EZ Savings4U program. There's also a lower automatic enrollment amount, which can make things a little easier for employers also. This type of program, because it's a payroll deduction IRA with automatic enrollment, will eliminate the need for the employer to be considered in a ERISA plan. Therefore, they're also eliminating tons of IRS and Department of Labor rules and regulations regarding retirement plans. And therefore, there's a lot of added costs and audit fees, etc., which are saved when we go in this approach rather than many other qualified retirement plans. And with EZ Savings4U, there's a built-in team of myself and the attorney, Doug Kerr, and Mary Jane Eatson, the plan document specialist, that will be helping each employer through the process of getting their documentation in place and potentially answering any questions that come up along the way. So what is EZ Savings not? We're not a company. EZ Savings4U is not an employer or a company in any legal sense. It is not something that you give to your employees. Your employees will probably never see the term EZ Savings4U. It's an educational platform for the employer to understand these rules about CalSavers and what the alternatives are, and how this payroll deduction IRA with automatic enrollment is the path that the employer will be using for satisfying their need to be in compliance with CalSavers. EZ Savings4U is not a retirement plan third-party administrator. We're not an IRA custodial trustee. We're not an investment advisor to either the employer or employee. All investment decisions will be made by your own individual employees, and EZ Savings4U is not in a position to offer investment advice. And we're not saying that EZ Savings4U is the right answer for all employers. Clearly, it is not. It is designed for those employers who typically have weekly payrolls, typically have highly seasonal workforces, and are looking for a way to satisfy CalSavers requirements in the easiest possible manner. So EZ Savings4U is a collection of concepts assembled by the three professionals you've heard about, who are all aimed at helping employers deal with the CalSavers mandate in the easiest manner possible. So what does EZ Savings4U cost? Well, it's free. At least it's free for clients of my firm, McClements Insurance Services. If you're not a client of my firm and would like to learn about how to get access to EZ Savings4U at no cost, we'd love to talk to you. If you already have an insurance broker for your workers' comp or your employee benefit programs, and you want to keep those broker relationships intact, then you certainly can take our fee option, which is a flat fee of $2,000. There are the possibility of additional costs being applied if you've got a highly unusual circumstance and you need a lot of customization. But the $2,000 should be sufficient to get you up and running unless you need that level of customization. So what do you get for your $2,000? Well, in addition to our 3-part team, you'll be invited to a live webinar. All 3 of us will be on the line answering any questions, helping you get comfortable with the program and answering any specific issues that you think might come up in your work environment. You'll also have access to the 8 additional videos that we've been referencing. These videos will go into various other aspects of the legal basis for these programs and the retirement plan rules and regulations of the Department of Labor. We want to make sure that you have a well-rounded understanding of all these concepts before you make a commitment to going into the direction of the EZ Savings4U program. You'll also be getting a resource binder, approximately 100 pages of material that will help support all of these issues. It'll also be something that you could show any future regulator who wants to question your program, being able to show the regulator that you did put time and effort into your decision-making process, and this is some tangible evidence of your ability to do the homework on whether or not this program was the right one for you and your employees. You'll also be getting the actual customized paperwork that you need to give employees. The acknowledgement form, the waiver form, and the re-enrollment form. These are all pretty simple documents, but they need to be customized for you and your work environment, and we will be doing that for you. You'll also get $500 of the $2,000 set aside as a legal retainer for Doug's services, just in case there are any issues that pop up and you need his specific time and effort on your case, maybe to answer a letter from a regulator or something along those lines. That's already part of the $2,000 package.